I think what was really interesting is just being here at NZME and following this journey that Jane is taking the company on. And as you all know, it's a very brand new company. It's a merger of 3 other companies, but in many ways the integrated company is much bigger than the disparate parts. And I don't think anybody until Jane and her team came on board really looked at the market, looked at where we were operating as a company and said, are we meeting this market and are we meeting the growth challenge? And I look also at the point Sina made and really interested about this thing about what do we stand for, because I think that's a very crucial thing when we're trying to get cut through in quite crowded markets really. So I guess really what I'd like to start with is with you, Kana, and really because I like the fact that you're head of Auckland strategy for BNZ, and what a strategy like that means. I mean, how do you project into this market? What's top of mind for you, and how are you executing to meet this different market, really?
Thanks very much, Fran. That's a great lead. And look, thank you very much for the invitation to come down tonight. Head of Auckland strategy, I think every business that is in New Zealand, whether you're a financial institution, you're an importer-exporter, whether you're the home builder, everyone has an Auckland strategy. So, and why? It's pretty simple. It's the largest growing economic powerhouse in the country. It's 35% of GDP. You look at the last GFC in terms of Auckland's GDP production, it rode through the GFC and actually went up while the rest of the country sucked down. So in terms of Auckland, then you look at the macroeconomic factors that drive growth, population growth, which you know, which you heard of tonight. Some of those are quite unique in terms of the changing landscape that we're faced with here in New Zealand, and particularly Auckland driving not only Auckland's growth, but regional growth. And on that basis, you've got 60% of the total Asian population choose to call Auckland home. And that's not because they come and have a look around the country, we all come and have a look, where would we like to live? That's a choice. And so of that choice brings needs and preferences, customer needs and preferences, and we've heard about that's not about channel, it's about content. And that's an individual choice, it's a family choice, it's a choice about how you want to live your life and what global market you want to be connected to, because there are multiple businesses. So for us, it makes sense to ensure that we're concentrating on the growth of Auckland and the typology of customers that are coming through. So whether it's digital, whether it's media play, whether it's product based, or whether it's financial service based, it's actually really, really important. Someone said it before, that it's actually customers driving that interface and wanting to have the information to make that decision. So
yeah, and just passing along to Shelley Wang, who I've known in several iterations of her career now, very talented person who's played a big role with MFAT, NZT in the past, working with a range of our companies, but now with a very big company indeed, IAG. And just what's your perspective on it? I mean, give it the lens of how you've seen it before, but your new role in the insurance business, actually. Yes. I was quite intrigued by that.
You're right, friend. As we are long-term friends, and are always normally working in the media and the government, and in this insurance role, it's different. And I don't think we can say we are the experts in this market, because we only got a taste of what it looked like or what it feels like to the Chinese digital space. And then right now, we are treating it as a test and learn space, not really we can call it a strategy yet. So I think like what you have said, NZME is having Mrs. Hao, Yingwen, is here. Also, we met before. So I think it's all getting ready for it. But how we do it is actually driven by the customers. Because all this demand actually initiated by the customer, and then they changing the landscape of how digital perform, and we have to catch up with them. No one can say you can have a perfect digital strategy right now, because it's keep changing. And even we have done a review by KPMG last year. I don't think it's valid anymore, because it's not the measurement KPMG has proposed. It's not working anymore. It's just changing so fast. So what I thought, the good attitude towards it for IAG, because our purpose is to help you to make world a safe place. So we are at this educational piece for engaged digital Chinese platform. So I think we have to keep learning and have an open mind to it.
And Sonia, you've just moved into this role as Chief Innovation Officer at Sky City. And folks, that's a very big difference from being at Fonterra prior to. So, you know, you may not have all the answers yet, but it's a very big Asian population that goes to casinos, and obviously it's broader than that with entertainment. But what is top of mind for you right now, and how do you look at your vision to develop, I guess, get to this world-class casino?
Really interesting question. Actually, when you look at where I came from in terms of running global initiatives for Fonterra, our Asian customer is where our margin was. So actually Asia was a very big focus for, and still is obviously, for Fonterra. So you need to understand the differences in the customer set when you're selling offshore to those that choose to come and spend some time in New Zealand, which is where I'm looking at now with Sky City. And so there are some things in common in terms of understanding the behaviours and attitudes and things that matter. So things like trusted relationships and authenticity, I absolutely agree that that's really key, and that you can't, one size doesn't fit all. We have members and guests of Sky City who are fourth generation New Zealanders. They may identify themselves within an ethnic group, but actually they want to be treated as a Kiwi. And then we have new to New Zealand, and we also have a very big tourist offering as well, where we get about 7,000 Asian tourists coming into the casino each week. That's projected to be about 10,000 a week within the next couple of years. So there's a lot of growth coming in, and with that comes needs, and so obviously multi-language is really important, but also how you provide an offering. And it does come down to individuals, and which is where digital is fantastic, because it's allowing us to understand through good use of data where people are at. We're able to learn and keep changing as we go. With our high-value members, we use WeChat as individual groups, so that we're actually, our hosts are looking after specific individuals in the right way, and we know exactly what is needed, and we're able to deliver that. We use social. Mobile is mobile-first philosophy. If you're not mobile, and if what you're doing doesn't work on mobile, then you're probably not talking to your customer. And then when we're thinking about the actual delivery of the service, so for example, our food and beverage is catering for 30 different ethnicities in our high end, and so we have to really think about the food, the person that stands in front of you, how you're greeted. Everything from end to end becomes a journey. Every interaction matters. And so we use digital to help us get that right, and to help us to support our staff in the right way. The other part I'll just make a quick comment on is that we actually have 85 different ethnicities on our staff, of which 23% actually identify themselves as Chinese. And so when you think about that, it's not just our customers, but actually it's our own workforce. And when that comes through, you compound that with the millennials. If 72% of our workforce is going to be millennials by 2020, then we really need to think about the changing nature and diversity, and how can digital support this growing group of our workforce who have grown up with digital. So the working tools that we use today aren't the working tools that we'll use to support our service tomorrow.
And finally, Carolyn Louis, Chief Operating Officer for NZME. Carolyn's got very diverse experience from telcos right across to radio, and then at NZME more recently in the last year or two. I think what's really interesting, Carolyn has actually worked with, get it wrong, Ewan, the single point of contact, which is a big challenge to take on and operationalise with Jane this vision for the company and to reach out. And I guess if you could tell us a bit more about that experience, and a little bit of where we might see that going, and also through the, I guess, tools, content channels, however. I mean, how do you operationalise a vision like this?
Yeah, so I guess at NZME we are audience first, and so we always start with every initiative with consumer insights. So we ran quite a big Chinese consumer insights piece last year. As you can see, a lot of the insights were in that video you just saw before. So, you know, there was quite a few really interesting things in there. The first one I think was first generation Chinese into New Zealand. They prefer, 35% of them can only read and speak Chinese, and for those that have Chinese or English as their second language, they prefer to interact with media in their own language, and that made a lot of sense to me. I guess the second thing is we know that Chinese are really comfortable online. They're hugely digital centric and very mobile centric, and so when you look at their shopping behaviours, they're very comfortable with online. And so when we did some analysis of our Grab One customer base, we found out that we had really high penetration of the Chinese community in New Zealand already, and so based on that insight we basically launched a Chinese Grab One site. And the reason we did that was because we found from the research that Chinese were really interested in deals and promotions, but secondly that they really wanted new experiences and new places to dine, which is what Grab One is as a proposition. I guess secondly, the other thing would be you really need to think hard about your creative approach to connecting with the Chinese community in New Zealand. So QR codes would not be a common tool on advertising in New Zealand, both on TV and on digital banners, because normally we would just click on a digital banner. But when you're trying to build your WeChat account in New Zealand, it's really important you include a QR code on your TV ad and your digital banner, because it's much easier to find you. You can imagine trying to search for someone on WeChat when there's 3 billion people in China on there. It's actually quite hard to find someone. So I guess I'm working with you now to operationalise our ethnic media partnerships and to really make it easy for our clients to connect in with Asian audiences, because it's not always the simplest, and we've built some great insights around the audience and how to connect with them.
I mean, Kana, this is one of the challenges you faced at BNZ, and you've had this incredibly, I think, good insight that it's not, you do actually need physical presence, you do need the relationships, it's not just all online. So I wonder if you could just sort of tell us more about that, because digital is important, but how do we amp it up? How important are those personal relationships as well?
Absolutely. So the components around the digital behaviour will drive people to make certain decisions. I think the store footprint is not quite dead, particularly financial service aspect, primarily because of the complexity of some of the products and services that are on offer. And then if you think typology and customer behaviour, different mindsets. In Auckland, in New Zealand, most Kiwis are used to debt. In Asian society, they're debt averse. So being debt averse means that you've got savings, you have different welfare systems. So we're talking about hundreds of years, and in some cases thousands of years of difference. So to come to have a product suite in New Zealand that's slightly different, you can have your digital content available, but when someone wants to have that deep, trusted, credible relationship, which is really, really important, keeps the cultural ties. And the same for me, I'm part Māori, so that connectivity in terms of family and listening to those hierarchy, the patriarchs in the family, is still really, really important. So having someone that you can go to with a physical footprint just ensures that you can meet not just the brand perspective but the brand promise, and that you can make sure that you deliver to what you said you've promised at the front end. So.
But we're kind of in a very global and mobile world though, aren't we? So just if I can bring Zana back into the conversation a bit, I mean, we've heard, a lot about what's happening with the digital world, how it's rapidly disrupting. How would you take penetrating a market like China now if you were starting out? Would you build on relationships, or would you go straight to the market using all the social channels? I'm just interested whether we're handicapped by our past and whether we've moved fast enough to where the actual now is in the future.
I think, as I said earlier, I don't think you can do either or. With, depending on what you're trying to promote. I mean, there's a group that you'd only engage with on Weibo and WeChat. But for some of those high-level relationships, you'll still do the face-to-face, you'll still do the entertaining, you'll still do the building the relationships, you'll meet in person, all of those things. So I think you balance both, depending on who your customer is and who your audience is.
But when I look at what Shelley has done also at IAG, I mean, you have launched a WeChat.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, official account there, which is sort of, if you're looking at the image of IAG over a long period of time, you say, wow, so why and how much business actually gets done through that, or is it just presence in the market?
I think it's both.
Okay.
I think when the question you ask us, my answer would be depends on your resource, and then whether we have enough resource to do it. And then right now we just choose WeChat, but there are Weibo, there are you could also apply. But the reason we choose WeChat is because it's not public, it's a friend within friends network. So as an insurance company, we often receive a lot of complaints. And then we already have Twitter account to look after that. So for the Chinese side, we know they need some insurance education. They want to know more information about it. So we treat it as an information channel to educate our market and also to engage with them. Some of the Chinese New Year activity we had with AMI, we use that as a promotion. But we also are taking your point. We think the most effective way to work is to work with some of the influencers in the market. So as a new official account, as you can imagine, we don't have a lot of followers, but we partner up with some of the influencers. So we put our WeChat post onto their platforms, and then that will actually help us to achieve the effectiveness. And we also try to use some promo code, sales code to link to that so we can track the effectiveness, how WeChat is performing. So for us, it's still a test, learn, and place. And all the sales revenue we achieve, what I can see, probably for the last 3 months for the Chinese market, it's just over 1 million. And then, but that is actually for the whole efforts of the last year. And then if you use that ratio, and you can tell the growth is really predominant. So we actually need to review the strategy and then to say whether we're going to put more resource into it and where we're going to put it. So all this result actually customer taught us and gave us has become insights for us to make reviewing or administration of our strategy. Yeah.
Fascinating. I see a lot of nods in the audience. There's obviously a lot of people on WeChat. Just if I can talk, probably get a bit of a conversation going really between Sonia and also Caroline, because both of you are using above-the-line media to expand the reach, and it's actually happening also with Sky City, with local media partners from different ethnicities. So I wonder if you could share those experiences and perhaps a bit of insight into how it's really working for both.
I've got to say that I'm not sure where we're at with we do use local media, but we have, I wouldn't say that we're measuring well to know how well it's performing. We know we need to be there. Where we can measure is when we're using our social channels and also leveraging our partners. So we're very reliant on our partners for bringing people to us, and then from there they step into our member programs and we get to know them individually. So we probably have less in terms of that above the line, we go out there, but how do we know what's working? So it'd be great if we can talk about that, Jane. And we'll get that. And maybe you can help me with that as well.
So I guess when we've done the research, you have to be in all channels, because on average Chinese are consuming 3.3 channels, every day. So it's really important to be in all channels with the right message. And so that's why we've partnered with WTV for TV and radio, we've partnered with Sky Kiwi for digital, and we've partnered with Chinese Herald for newspaper, because if you want to reach all Chinese New Zealanders, you actually need to be in a range of channels, because everyone has their different preferences, but they're all consuming multiple channels, including social and WeChat.
I'll just, while we're going to take a couple of questions from the floor, and if we can make them questions, if you don't mind, for the panel. I'm just sort of interested with Jane. How fast can we go? Are we going fast enough into this market to embrace the market? Are we missing opportunities as I guess a New Zealand Inc. collective in Auckland, really? Just a broader question.
Okay, so there's two things. First things, I think we've been really slow to market. I think it's been, this didn't happen yesterday. This has been happening for many years, the diversity, particularly in the Auckland market. So I think we've been slow to market, and therefore now we're here, we need to speed it up. And that's precisely what we're doing, because it doesn't make any sense not to be engaged with your entire audience. However, what I do want to say is that everything we're saying here today is exactly the same for any audience. It's an and, not an or. It's what is the demographic, what do you know about that audience, and what channels, not channel, do we need to use to deliver the content there. And it all comes back to content. So, long gone has the time where, I'm going to use a brand here, but long gone is the time, Sky City can't place things. If Sky City want to attract diners to one of the dining venues, the way to do that is different to an 18-year-old to a 25-year-old, probably to a farmer, as it is to another audience. And so I think we've been doing that all the time. You've touched on word of mouth. You know, you can generate word of mouth because your brand is delivering what it said it can deliver. And that's the power of social media and following those things. But I don't think that what we're doing... What I'm concerned about with speed is that people find it hard to start. And actually, it's no different to what you're doing every day to reach any other audience that you're trying to target. You know, would you say the same? You know, we've got the rural community. You know, would we put the same messaging into Invercargill that we would into Ponsonby Road?
Absolutely right, Jane. From a content point of view, you might have the same base piece of content that says, I want to talk about Depot as a food and beverage offer. But you've got different sets of people you want to talk to about that. So you have the same core purpose, but actually you set up maybe 6 different ways of messaging, and each of those may have different channels. And so it's actually really understanding what message to send to which customer group, at which time and how. And that's where that data piece comes in, is really, really important, and actually having a good partner that can help you understand which channels will help you get to those people. I think that's absolutely right.
So we're late to market. We need to speed it up, and we need to connect and work in meetings like this with the right people in the room to enable that, and not fear taking the first step, because it's no different to what we're doing today with other target audiences.
I will, just because you're all still very engaged and no one's racing to get out the door, we will take the opportunity to take a couple of quick questions directed to the panel as a whole, if you wouldn't mind, and then I'll call on Mei Chen to close and invite you for further refreshments and discussion with our break panel. Thank you. Anyone with a question? Yes. Adrian. Yeah.
Jane, how would NZME generate income or charge? How does NZME typically charge and generate income?
Oh. We've only got 5,000 different rate cards sitting in the system. So, look, so many different ways. So it depends on what the solution is. If it's a standard solution on a standard media, then there is basically a price for targeting that particular audience. If it's a custom solution and requires different expertise, then the price changes. So we actually, I'm not joking, we've probably got 10,000. Customised pricing is like not one size fits all for audiences. Pricing changes based on what you need to do and who you need to reach and how many you need to reach and how you want to reach them. Probably not a clean answer, but there's no one answer on that one. We're very good price. Always deliver value, actually.
Great commercial. Do we have one final question up the back? Thanks. And then, I'm sorry, we will have to wrap then, but there'll be plenty of time for further informal conversation.
Hi. You talked about measurement, and my question is, I've been told by some market research panels in New Zealand that the Asian communities are much less inclined to join research panels and be part of market research. And I've found where I've been been challenged with targeting, say, a Chinese Auckland population, to be able to have a focus group with them or to survey that demographic is really difficult. Any advice on the best way to approach understanding this market?
So when indeed we went through developing our own insights about the Asian community, it was a bit of a challenge. Focus groups weren't too much of an issue actually, because as much as Chinese value their privacy, they also want to contribute to New Zealand society. And so once you get them into a focus group, they're really, really chatty. Like, I was really surprised myself. When we did our quantitative study and we used a panel, it was really hard. Actually, Chinese people don't trust unknown research brands. So we put ours out under a particular research company. It got no response. But what we did do is we know that Chinese people really like trusted and credible brands. The minute we put it under the New Zealand Herald brand, we actually got a much better response. And then the second thing we did is we actually put it into Chinese channels. So we promoted it through Sky Kiwi WeChat and through the Chinese Herald, and we got an instantly better response. So you just have to think through what Chinese people are actually going to respond to best, and it is absolutely possible.
If the rest of the panel could give an insight as well, thank you.
Yeah, sure. We actually took a two-pronged approach for that precise reason, and actually with the help of NZAL, actually we targeted some of our clients across our business and got them together to give us direct feedback in terms of their customer experience. Got together for an evening, had it chaired properly. May chaired the evening, Carolyn was there, and we got some fairly confronting feedback. But it was great because we got the real, what I call the real good oil. Because sometimes when you send a survey out, you get, today I feel like this. So you get what you get, but when you can engage in that trusted, credible relationship as a partner, then you get that. The second approach we undertook from that was to go individually through the key business perspectives that we had, whether it be our corporate clients or whether it be a retail customer, and actually directly through the experience straight after, follow up and then work through hand in hand with the customer. And we found that incredibly useful for us.
Actually, I'll comment because it follows on in the same vein, which is we're actually just undertaking some what we call customer experience mapping now, and we're actually going individually. It's really important, and we've found no trouble with having our very valued customers talking to us. They're very opinionated. They just don't want to do it in a group. So when you're talking directly to them, and we're using multiple ways of doing this, including observation. So understanding what people say isn't necessarily what they do. And so looking at, and how does our experience with Sky City actually then work within their broader experiences. So just to look at one piece is not enough. We actually really needed to go broader and understand whole of life experiences and opportunities, and especially when with my role I'm looking out 5 years and plus, and so we have to start thinking what else is coming through. So that individually is really, really important in observation, the two key things that we've used.
I think I just said I totally agree with you. Trust is the issue, and the trust is very important when you start doing insights and survey. So that's why using some trustworthy brands like WTV, like Sky TV, as very most effective way to reach out to this audience. But also there is another innovative way of doing it is to design your own digital survey. Make it is very convenient, very easy for them to participate. If they could just click a button through their WeChat channel and then just doing all these surveys, and you don't have to run your focus group anymore, and then the technology can help you get all the insights, and it's cost effective anyway. So I think both trust and technology probably need to be considered.
At this point, we'll formally thank the panel with May Chen. Thank you, May.
So, can I just thank the panel? I think this has been an incredibly important session. We haven't yet discussed the fact that there are 160 languages spoken in Auckland across 220 ethnicities. And of course, you're absolutely right, Jane. This is just the same as any other market segment, except they speak a different language. So today, Jane's talked about the fact that if we have been slow movers, not first movers, then it's very important for us to latch on to this important concept of partnership and ecosystem. Because we need to be able to grow this ecosystem really quickly and get into partnership with people who know this stuff better than we do. So can I say that we do need to think about the two different methods, and probably it's not an either or but a both. You know, surveys are great, but I have to be honest and say that in the 40 years I've been in New Zealand, I've never undertaken a survey unless you've made me. I came from a background where I didn't speak English as a first language, and we always avoided all surveys in our family. We also avoid all quizzes in our family. A quiz is not a good idea if you're trying to provide information to someone who's ESOL. As I told a department just last week who was having difficulty recruiting Asian candidates, and I said, well, if you provide all your recruitment information through a quiz, they're never going to click on the button. So sometimes I think the Kana approach is right. What we actually did was we selected some top Asian leaders from New Zealand Asian leaders, and we got round a table. And the depth of the conversations over a 2.5-hour dinner were pretty helpful. So I think sometimes surveys are good, but I think sometimes depth is also good. So can I just say that, of course, we're following on from this session by bringing Julia Middleton to New Zealand. This is a global expert on cultural capability. It is incredibly difficult to communicate with people who don't speak your language and come from different cultures if you don't have cultural capability. So Julia Middleton is coming to New Zealand from London in March. So if you want an invite to that, March 8, could you let Karinia know, General Manager of New Zealand Asian Leaders? Could you stand up, Karinia? In April, we actually have a session called Developing Cultural Capability, and we'll have a panel of experts. And in May, we are holding a forum with Asian, Maori and Pacific leaders. The reason is because you're looking at the future of leadership in Auckland and in New Zealand. By 2038, 51% of the population will identify as predominantly Asian, Maori and Pacifica. So if you're interested in that event, once again, talk to Karinia. Can I close on your behalf? Fran, you did a fantastic job of bringing it all together. Look, it's hard to get the learnings out, particularly in an audience this size, but can I say to Carolyn, to Jane, to Ziena, to Kana, to Sonia and to Shelley, we really learnt a lot tonight. It's given us a lot of things to reflect on, but you know, the key thing to reflect on is that Darwin was right. The race is not to the strong, it is not to the smartest, but it is to the most agile. This market is hot and it's changing and evolving, exacerbated by the fact that we're marrying each other and producing babies that are mixed race and creating cultures of their own. So if you want to be a first mover, then follow New Zealand Media and Enterprise, and Jane will show you how she is first leading in this space and also media-wise. Thank you very much.